I arrived on Black Spruce Island on a Tuesday in late June, the ferry lurching against the dock like it wanted nothing more to do with the place. The sky was low and heavy, not raining but holding its breath. My duffel bag weighed 42 pounds, most of it spare uniforms, 2 changes of civilian clothes, and a week's worth of protein bars I de-rationed after my last gig fell through. I'd taken this job because the pay was double standard summer rates and because the contract said no prior experience required. That usually means trouble. But I needed the money. My sister's medical co-pays had bled me dry. And this was the only offer that didn't ask about my record. The ferryman didn't speak. He just pointed to a path of packed gravel that disappeared into a wall of spruce and birch. I followed it for 300 yards, counting my steps to stay calm, 412 by the time I reached the gate. A chain-link fence, 12 feet high, topped with coiled razor wire that hadn't rusted despite the salt air. Beyond it, a cluster of low wooden buildings with green-painted roofs and narrow windows. The main lodge stood at the center, its porch sagging slightly on the left side. A single vehicle, a boxy electric cart, sat parked near the mess hall, battery indicator blinking amber. A woman waited on the porch. Mid-50s, short gray hair, khaki uniform with no insignia. She held a clipboard and a sealed manila envelope. "You're late," she said. Not unkindly, just as fact. I came on the noon ferry. It left at 11:53. She checked her watch. "You were supposed to be here by noon. Doesn't it matter? You're here now." She handed me the envelope. Inside, your key, your radio, your schedule, and your rules. Read them before sunset. Don't lose any of it. If you break a rule before you've read it, it still counts. I nodded. My name is Eli Carter. I am 24. I've worked camp jobs before, kayak guide in Maine, ropes course assistant in Vermont, but never one that started with a warning like that. She led me to cabin 7, unlocked the door, and handed me a laminated map. Bunks are assigned. You are alone. Supplies are in the locker under the bed. Inventory them tonight. Radio check at 8 p.m., Channel 5. Say only your call sign and clear. If you hear static that sounds like whispering, switch to Channel 7 and say nothing. Wait 2 minutes, then return to 5. Understood? Yes. Your call sign is Spruce 7, memorize it. Dante, write it down. She left without another word. The cabin smelled of pine resin and dried mildew. One narrow bed, one desk, one chair bolted to the floor. No mirror, no window on the north wall, just smooth, sealed plywood. The south window had a latch, but the glass was fogged like it had been steamed and never cleaned. I set my bag down and opened the envelope. Inside was a single sheet of paper typed in courier font, no header, no signature. Just 14 numbered rules. 1. You must return to your cabin by 9 p.m. every night. If you are not inside with the door locked by 9:01, do not enter. Walk to the mess hall and stay there until sunrise. Do not look back at your cabin. 2. Between 10:15 p.m. and 10:45 p.m., you must sit at your desk with the lamp on. Do not read, do not write, do not sleep. Keep your hands visible on the desktop. If you hear knocking at the door, do not answer. If the knocking repeats 3 times with exactly 7 seconds between each knock, cover your ears and hum the campus closing song, Row, row, row your boat until the knocking stops. 3. The north wall of your cabin has no door and no window. If you see one, do not approach it. Do not touch it. Do not acknowledge it out loud. Walk to the south window and count the trees outside until your breathing steadies. 4. All meals must be eaten inside the mess hall. Do not take food outside. If someone offers you food after dusk, refuse it, even if you know them, even if it is the director. 5. The staff radio must remain on Channel 5 unless instructed otherwise. If dispatcher says code Spruce, switch to Channel 7 and remain silent for 5 minutes. do not speak, even to confirm. If you hear your name spoken clearly on Channel 7 during this time, turn the radio off completely and wait until 6 a.m. before turning it back on. 6. You are not permitted to enter the boathouse, not even to retrieve equipment. Not even if a child is calling for help from inside. If you hear cries from the boathouse after sunset, walk to the flagpole and stand there until the cries stop. Do not face the boathouse. Keep your eyes on the ground. 7. If you see another staff member wearing a red cap, do not speak to them. Do not make eye contact. Walk in the opposite direction until they are out of sight. If they follow you, go to the storage shed behind the craft hut and lock yourself inside. Wait 20 minutes. Exit only if you hear the all-clear chime 3 short rings from the main bell. 8. Every morning at 6 a.m. you must walk the perimeter path clockwise. Do not deviate. Do not stop. Count your steps. The path is exactly 892 steps. If your count is off by more than 10, repeat the circuit. If your count is off by more than 50, return to your cabin and do not leave until noon. Report the discrepancy to dispatcher at your next radio check. 9. Between 2:10 a.m. and 2:20 a.m., you must cover the south window with the blackout curtain provided. After 2:20 a.m., the curtain must be removed and folded precisely along the creases marked in blue thread. Do not look out the window during this window, even if you hear your name. 10. If you find a feather on the ground any size, any color, do not pick it up. Step around it. Mark its location with a stone. Report it at radio check. If you find more than one feather within 50 yards of your cabin, skip your next perimeter walk. Stay inside. Seal the door with the tape provided under your desk. 11. You may use the staff bathroom between 6 a.m. and 9 p.m. only. After 9 p.m., use the bucket in your cabin. Flush the bucket contents down the toilet the next morning before 6 a.m. Do not look into the bucket after use. 12. If a child asks you where the others are, say only, "They re-resting." Do not elaborate. Do not ask what they mean. If the child says, "But I saw them last night," respond, "You must have dreamed it." Then escort them to the arts and crafts hut and notify the nearest counselor. 13. Never enter cabin 13, not even to check for damage, not even if the door is open. If you see lights on in cabin 13 after sunset, walk to the eastern tree line and stand there until the lights go out. Do not count how long it takes. 14. If you forget a rule, do not guess. Return to your cabin and reread the list. If the list is missing, go to the Director's office and knock once. Wait. If the door opens, step inside. If it doesn't, sit on the steps until sunrise. I read them twice, then a third time. My hands didn't shake, but my throat felt tight. Outside, the wind picked up. The trees groaned like they were trying to say something. I locked the door. That night at 8 p.m., I keyed my radio. Spruce 7, clear. Static hissed back. Then faintly, a voice almost dispatcher-esque but slightly slower said, "Eli, you can come home now." I switched to Channel 7, waited 2 minutes, said nothing. When I returned to Channel 5, there was only silence. The next morning, I walked the perimeter. 892 steps. Exactly. I didn't mention the feather I saw near the woodpile. It was black, about 3 inches long and perfectly dry despite the dew. I stepped around it, placed a flat river stone beside it. At radio check, I said, "Spruce 7, clear," Feather reported. "Location marked." Dispatcher replied, "Copy 7. Maintain protocols. I didn't sleep much that week." Not really. I sat at my desk each night between 10:15 and 10:45, hands flat on the wood, listening. Once I heard 3 knocks, 7 seconds apart. I hummed the song until my jaw ached. The director never spoke to us again after that first day. But we saw her sometimes, always at dusk, always walking the shoreline with her hands clasped behind her back, never looking out at the water. The other staff avoided eye contact. We ate in silence. No one laughed. No campers arrived. There were supposed to be 50 kids. The schedule said orientation started June 20th, but the bunks stayed empty, the mess hall trays unused, the kayaks sat tethered, unmoved. We were told the delay was administrative, but no one believed it. On the 11th night, I saw the red cap. It was after my perimeter walk. I'd just passed the craft hut when I noticed someone up ahead leaning against the fence near the eastern tree line. A staff jacket, same khaki as mine, but a red baseball cap pulled low. I froze. Rule 7. Do not speak. Do not make eye contact. Walk opposite. I turned around, walked back toward the mess hall, felt footsteps behind me, light, quick, matching my pace. I broke into a jog, didn't look back, made it to the storage shed, fumbled with the key, got inside, locked the door. 20 minutes. I counted every second. No all-clear chime came. I waited anyway. At 21 minutes, I heard something scratch at the door, 3 short taps like fingernails. Then silence. I didn't leave until dawn. At radio check, I said Spruce 7, possible red cap encounter, storage protocol enacted, no all-clear heard. Dispatcher said, copy, remain vigilant, new amendment attached to your door. I hadn't noticed it before. A small envelope taped to the frame, inside 6 new rules printed in the same font. 15. If you enter the storage shed under Rule 7, you must inventory the contents within 1 hour of exit. Any missing item must be logged and reported. Do not assume it was misplaced. Assume it was taken. 16. The all-clear chime will only sound if the perimeter is secure. If you do not hear it, wait an additional 30 minutes before exiting any secured location. Do not leave early, even if you hear familiar voices. 17. You are no longer permitted to walk the perimeter alone. From now on, you must pair with another staff member. If no one is available, skip the walk and remain in your cabin with lights off from 5 p.m. onward. 18. If you hear a child singing row, row, row your boat outside your cabin after 10 p.m., do not hum along. Do not acknowledge it. Place your hands over your ears and recite the alphabet backward until silence returns. 19. All feathers must now be photographed before marking. Use the disposable camera in your desk drawer. Do not develop the film. Place it in the red mailbox outside the director's office. 20. If your partner fails to show for a scheduled perimeter walk, do not go looking for them. Assume they are compromised. Notify dispatcher immediately and lock your cabin until further instructions. I never got a partner. No one volunteered. No assignments were made. I skipped the perimeter walks after that. On the 19th night, the power went out. Not just the lights, the radio died. The electric cart wouldn't start. Even the battery-powered lanterns flickered and dimmed like something was draining them. This was the first storm. Not rain, but a thick, clinging fog that rolled in off the lake and swallowed the paths whole. Visibility dropped below 20 yards. The temperature fell 15 degrees in under an hour. I found the emergency protocols taped to the inside of my desk drawer. 3 rules, printed on water-resistant paper. E1. During complete power loss, you must seal all windows with 3 rotations of duct tape from the emergency kit. Begin at the northeast corner. Work clockwise. Do not stop until all windows are sealed. If you hear breathing on the other side of the glass, continue taping. Do not look. E2. Every 30 minutes, you must stand at the center of your cabin and call out your call sign 3 times. Pause 10 seconds between each. If you hear an echo that is not your own voice, lie flat on the floor and remain still until the next 30-minute mark. Do not speak again until then. E3. If you are instructed to evacuate during a blackout, follow the glow rope laid outside your door. It will lead to the mess hall. Do not deviate. Do not help others. If the rope ends abruptly, turn around and return to your cabin. It was not real. I started taping. The south window fogged worse as I worked. My fingers trembled, but I kept the rotations even 3 full turns, overlapping by half an inch. At the second window I heard it, a slow, wet exhale right against the glass. I didn't look. I kept taping. At midnight I stood in the center of the cabin. Spruce 7, spruce 7, spruce 7. The third call echoed lower, rougher, not mine. I dropped to the floor. Lying there, I heard footsteps outside. Not one pair, many, circling the cabin, always staying exactly 10 yards from the walls, never crossing the threshold. They circled for 29 minutes. At the next mark, I called again. This time, no echo. I checked my watch. 1:14 a.m. I remembered Rule 9. Between 2:10 and 2:20 a.m., cover the south window. But the window was already sealed with tape, and the blackout curtain was still folded under my desk. I didn't move it. At 2:10 a.m., something scraped against the south wall, long, slow drags like fingers searching for a latch. The tape held. The scraping stopped at 2:20 a.m. Exactly. I stayed on the floor until 6 a.m. When I opened the door, the fog was gone. Sunlight glared off the wet grass. The red mailbox stood open, its contents scattered. My feather photo was missing. So was the camera. I walked to the mess hall. A single tray waited on the counter. Cold oatmeal. No note. That afternoon, I found a logbook in the Director S. office mailbox, not mine. Labeled Spruce 9. I read it during my desk vigil. Day 3, saw a counselor at the boathouse. She was waving, called my name. I almost went. Remembered Rule 6, went to flagpole. She kept calling. Voice got wet, like her mouth was full of water. Stopped after 40 minutes. Day 7, red cap. Didn't run fast enough. It followed me to my cabin, knocked once, then said, "Open up, it s me." Sounded like my brother. I almost opened it, but his voice doesn't crack like that. Stayed quiet. It left at dawn, day 12. Found 3 feathers in a triangle near the eastern gate. Reported, camera missing next morning. Now I mark with sticks. Hope that S enough. Day 18, power S out, taping windows. Heard something say my name through the wall, not on the radio, through the wood. I am scared. If you rereading this, don't trust anyone who says they are here to relieve you. They not. The last entry was dated the day before I arrived. Spruce 9 never checked in again. On the 22nd night, I saw cabin 13. It wasn't T on the original map. But now it stood between the craft hut and the old incinerator, small, white-painted with a green door. Lights were on, curtains drawn. Rule 13, never enter. If lights are on after sunset, go to eastern tree line and wait. I walked there, stood among the birches watching. The lights didn't go out. I waited 2 hours, 3. My feet grew numb. At 4 a.m., I heard a child S voice from the direction of the cabin. "I am still here," it said. I didn't turn. I stared at the ground as instructed. "I know you can hear me," it said. "You always come when I call." It sounded like my sister, the way she did when she was 8. Before the seizures started, my chest tightened, my fingers curled into fists. Rule 12. If a child says, "But I saw them last night," respond, "You must have dreamed it." But this wasn't a camper. There were no campers. I didn't respond at all. At sunrise, the lights in cabin 13 went out. I returned to my cabin, checked the inventory under my bed. 1 roll of duct tape missing, 3 protein bars gone, radio battery at 30% lower than it should be even after last night. I reported it all. Dispatcher said, "Copy 7, conserve power, new amendment, another envelope, 10 more rules." 21, do not consume any food not served in the mess hall, even if it appears identical. Even if it is your favorite. 22, if you wake up facing the north wall, turn around slowly. Do not look at what is behind you. Walk backward to the door, open it, and step outside. Stay out until noon. 23, you are forbidden from discussing the rules with other staff. Do not compare lists. Do not ask if they've seen amendments. If someone quotes a rule you don't recognize, treat them as compromised. 24. The perimeter path is now 904 steps. Recalibrate your count. Do not question the change. 25. If you find your own call sign written anywhere on a wall, in the dirt, on your clothes, burn the item immediately. If it's on your skin, scrub with salt and vinegar for 10 minutes. Report the incident. 26. After 9 p.m., do not wear your staff jacket. Hang it on the hook outside your cabin. If it's missing in the morning, do not retrieve it. Request a new one from the supply closet. Do not wear it until sunset of the following day. 27. If your radio emits a tone that matches the camp's reveille melody, turn it off. Wait 1 hour. Restart. If the tone repeats, discard the radio and retrieve the backup from under your bunk. 28. Never accept a replacement key from anyone but the director. If your key is lost, knock once on her door. Wait, do not knock again. 29. If you see your reflection blink out of sync with you, close your eyes and count to 60. Do not open them until you've finished. 30. The feathers are not birds. Do not speculate on their origin. Do not attempt to track them. Do not keep any part of one, even a fragment. I burned my jacket that night. Someone had stitched spruce 7 into the lining in black thread. I didn't sleep. The next breach happened to Rookie. His real name was Marcus. He arrived a week after me, wide-eyed, asking too many questions. I warned him once. He laughed. Said the rules were just camp hazing. On night 27, he broke Rule 6. We heard the scream just after sunset. Not a cry for help, more like a wet gasp, cut short. I ran to the flagpole, stood there, eyes down, as Rule 6 demanded. Marcus didn't come back. At dawn, we found his boot near the boathouse door. Laces untied, inside a single black feather curled like a question mark. Dispatcher didn't say a word on the radio, just static. That afternoon, all staff were ordered to inventory our cabins. I found a note slipped under my door. It read, "They learn from mistakes. Yours one to count if you follow the rules." No signature. I started writing my own rules after that, not as rebellion as protection. I copied every amendment, every emergency protocol onto fresh paper. Neat, numbered, with margins for new additions. I kept the original list in a Ziploc bag under my mattress. On night 34, the second storm hit, worse than the first. Wind screamed through the trees like it was trying to strip the bark off. Rain came sideways, power gone again before 8 p.m. I taped the windows, called my sign every 30 minutes, lay still when the echo came. At 1 a.m., the radio crackled to life on its own, not static. A voice. "Eli," it said. "It's Mom. Your sister S worse. They need you at the hospital. The ferry S waiting. Just come to the dock." I knew it wasn't her. My mother died when I was 16. But the voice was perfect. The slight rasp. The way she always said "ferry" like fairy. I gripped the radio. My finger hovered over the power button. Rule 5. If you hear your name on Channel 7, turn it off and wait until 6 a.m. But this was Channel 5. And it wasn't a name. It was a whole sentence. I didn't turn it off. I stood up, walked to the door, stopped with my hand on the knob. Rule 1. If you're not in your cabin by 9:01, do not enter. But it was 1 a.m. I was already inside. Rule 6. If cries come from the boathouse, go to the flagpole. But this wasn't at the boathouse. This was my radio. Rule 23. If someone quotes a rule you don't recognize, treat them as compromised. But this wasn't quoting. This was pleading. I took a breath. Then I unplugged the radio SA backup battery, something not in the rules, but something ID added to my personal list after Spruce 9's log. Silence. I sat back at my desk, hands visible, waited. At 2:10 a.m., the scratching began again. I didn't move. At 2:20, it stopped. The storm broke by 4 a.m. I walked outside at first light. The paths were littered with feathers, dozens of them, strewn in lines that led toward the lake, then vanished at the water's edge. I marked each with a stone, took photos with the new camera, also missing the next day. No one spoke at breakfast. That evening, I checked the perimeter alone despite Rule 17. I needed to know. 892 steps, not 904. The path hadn't changed. The rules had. I didn't report it. On night 42, I saw the director by the incinerator. She was burning papers. Flames licked the edges of a familiar manila envelope. She looked at me, nodded once. I didn't approach. The next morning, a new staff member arrived, young, nervous, carrying a duffel bag that looked too light. He was assigned Cabin 8. I watched him read his rules on the porch. That night, during my desk vigil, I heard 3 knocks at my door, 7 seconds apart. I hummed the song. Outside, someone whispered, "Eli, it's me." I kept humming. At dawn, I walked to his cabin. The door was open. Inside, the envelope lay on the desk, unopened, no sign of him. I took the envelope, added it to my folder. Now I prepare the rules for the next one. I've copied everything, core, amendments, emergency, even the ones they never wrote down, the ones I learned by almost dying. I've numbered them, all clean margins, courier font printed on waterproof paper. I leave it in the mailbox outside the director's office every evening. Sometimes it's gone by morning, sometimes it's not. Today is my last day. My contract ends at noon. The ferry comes at 1. I've packed my duffel, 42 pounds again, lighter on food, heavier on salt, tape, and spare batteries. I want to look back at the island, but I know this. If they hire someone new and that person finds my rules, they'll survive longer than Marcus. Longer than Spruce 9, maybe long enough to understand, or long enough to stop asking why. I lock the cabin door for the last time, walk to the dock, count my steps. 763, the path got shorter. I don't mention it. I didn't leave. The ferry came. I watched it from behind the mess hall, hidden in the brush, my duffel slung over one shoulder. The captain waited 20 minutes, then he turned the engine and left. I'd already decided. My sister's co-pays were still due, but I'd wired what I could from the first paycheck. Enough to buy time. And something in me, something deeper than fear, refused to abandon the island before the next person arrived. Before I could hand them the rules in person. Because paper can disappear. Mailboxes can be emptied by things that wear human faces. So I stayed. I moved my belongings to the storage shed behind the craft hut. It wasn't authorized, but no one stopped me. The director saw me carrying my duffel at dusk. She didn't speak, just nodded as if she'd expected it. I slept on a cot made of stacked supply crates. Kept the door barred with a metal pole I found in the incinerator shed. Every night I walked the perimeter, not as ritual but as patrol. I counted steps, yes, but I also watched for fresh feathers, for red caps, for lights in cabin 13. None came. For 8 days, nothing happened. Then, on the 9th morning, a new envelope appeared on the storage shed floor. No tape, no stamp. Just lying there like it had grown from the wood. Inside was a single sheet, not a rule list, a schedule. July 12th, new staff arrival. Cabin 8 reassignment. Orientation, 1,500 hours. July 13th, full operational status resumes. July 14th, first camper transport expected. July 15th, night watch rotation begins. Campers, actual children. My stomach dropped. I went to the director's office, knocked once. She opened the door. "You are still here." I couldn't leave. She studied me. "You understand what this means. They'll bring kids into this. They've been scheduled for weeks. Nothing stops the season, not even Marcus." Her eyes hardened. "Marcus didn't follow the rules. The camp protects those who obey. That's the only covenant it honors." I wanted to argue, but I remembered Spruce 9's log, the wet voice, the boathouse, The unopened envelope in cabin 8. If I raised a fuss, I'd be removed, or worse, replaced. So I nodded. I'll train the new hire. Good, she said. His name is Theo. Arrives at noon. I met him at the dock. He was 19 with round glasses and ink-stained fingers, carried a backpack, not a duffel. Looked like he'd never slept a full night in his life. You're a Spruce 7? He asked, voice cracking. I am. They said you were the only one who's lasted. Lasted isn't the same as safe, I said. Come on. I walked him to cabin 8. The door had been repainted, fresh hinges, but the air inside still smelled faintly of salt and something metallic like old blood, though I told myself it was rust. I handed him his envelope, watched as he read the rules. His hands shook. Rule 6, he whispered. Why would they say that? If a kid is in trouble, you don't go, I said. No matter what it sounds like, no matter how real it feels, but that's, hey, not your job to question. Your job is to survive. Then protect the campers when they come. He swallowed. What about you? Why didn't you leave? I didn't answer, just pointed to the desk. Sit there tonight between 10:15 and 10:45. Hands visible. If you hear knocks, hum the song. Dante, stop until it's gone. He nodded, eyes wide. I left, but I didn't go far. That night I camped in the trees 50 yards east of cabin 8, watched through a gap in the branches. At 10:05, Theo sat at his desk. At 10:16, the knocking started. 3 raps, 7 seconds apart. He froze, then slowly began to hum. Row, row, row your boat. The knocking came again, closer this time. He kept humming, louder now. I gripped the salt pouch in my pocket, 10 ounces, coarse grain, packed tight. At 10:38, the knocking stopped. Theo slumped forward, head in his hands. I returned to the shed. At dawn, I checked on him. He was pale but alive. You did good, I said. He looked up. It sounded like my little brother. Exactly like him. I know. What is this place? I hesitated. A filter. It lets some things through, stops others. The rules are the mesh. He didn't understand, but he would. Over the next 3 days, I trained him. I showed him how to tape windows without breaking rhythm, how to count steps while scanning the tree line, how to test a radio voice. Real dispatcher always says copy, never okay. Real staff never ask you to break a rule, just this once. On the morning of July 14th, the first ferry arrived with campers. 50 children ages 8 to 12. Bright shirts, loud voices, backpacks full of snacks and stuffed animals. They didn't see the feathers at the dock. Didn't notice the way the director's eyes never met theirs directly. Didn't hear the silence that fell over the staff the moment they stepped onto the island. I watched from the mess hall porch. Theo stood near the boathouse, clipboard in hand, eyes scanning the tree line. He was following Rule 8, counting steps even while checking names. At lunch, a girl, small, freckled red hair, asked me, "Where are the other counselors?" "They re-resting," I said. "But I saw them last night," she said. "The woods, singing. You must have dreamed it." I walked her to arts and crafts. That night I heard crying from the boathouse, not a child's cry, too low, too guttural. I went to the flagpole, stood with my eyes on the dirt. Theo joined me a minute later. I heard it too. "Dante, look," I said. He didn't. The crying lasted 34 minutes. Afterward, we walked back together. "You're doing it right," I told him. He didn't answer. On night 48, the third storm hit. Not fog this time. Lightning split the sky every 12 seconds like a countdown. Rain turned the paths to mud within minutes. Power failed at 7:52 p.m. I ran to cabin 8. Theo was already taping windows. "Good," I said. "E1, do all 4. Clockwise." We worked in silence. At the south window, something pressed against the glass, long jointed fingers, black as tar, leaving smears that evaporated as we watched. We kept taping. At midnight, we stood in the center of his cabin. Spruce 8, Spruce 8, Spruce 8, he called. An echo came back his voice, but singing, row, row, row your boat. He dropped to the floor. I stayed standing. My turn at 30 minutes. Spruce 7, Spruce 7, Spruce 7. No echo. At 2:10 a.m., the scratching started on both cabins. We stayed inside. At 2:20, it stopped. At 3 a.m., the glow rope appeared outside his door. It pulsed faint green, leading toward the mess hall. Don T, I said. E3, it wasn't T laid by staff. No one else evacuating. He nodded, trembling. We waited until dawn. In the morning, the campers were fine, laughing at breakfast. No one remembered the storm, but the feathers were back. Hundreds of them arranged in concentric circles around cabin 13. The director ordered a full lockdown. No one outside after 8 p.m., all walks canceled. Theo and I sat in the shed that night sharing protein bars. They were testing us, he said. No, I said. They were waiting. For what? For someone to slip. He looked at me. You think they'll come for the kids. I think the rules exist to keep the kids safe. And us? We were just the locks on the door. On night 52, Theo broke a rule. Not on purpose. He woke up facing the north wall. Rule 22, turn around slowly, walk backward out, stay out until noon. But he panicked, turned quickly, looked behind him. He told me at breakfast, voice hollow. I saw a shape, like a person but stitched together, with feathers where the eyes should be. I checked his cabin. The north wall was solid plywood, but on his pillow a single black feather. I reported it. Dispatcher said Spruce 8 is compromised. Quarantine protocol initiated, I argued. Said it was a mistake, that he'd followed everything else. Rules don't allow for mistakes, dispatcher replied. At noon, Theo was gone. His backpack remained, his radio, his rule sheet now stained with something dark. I took them, added them to my archive. The campers stayed for 2 more weeks. No incidents, no red caps, no cries from the boathouse. On their last night, the director called a staff meeting. Just her and me. You've earned a choice, she said. Choice? Leave tonight on the ferry or stay. Become permanent staff, full benefits, housing, a real role. I thought of my sister, of the city, of never having to count steps again. Then I thought of the next summer, the next batch of kids, the next rookie who wouldn't know to hum the song. I'll stay, I said. She handed me a new envelope. Inside was a single rule. 31. If you choose to stay, you are no longer Spruce 7. You are custodian. Your duty is to ensure the rules are passed on whole, unbroken, without interpretation. You do not leave. Not even for family, not even for death. I read it, then folded it carefully and placed it in my folder. That evening I walked the perimeter, 763 steps. The path hadn't changed. I just had. Now I wait for the next trainee. I've prepared everything. Clean cabin, fresh rule sheet, new camera, salt under the desk, tape in the locker. And my own additions written in blue ink so they stand out. 32. Trust your gut, but verify with procedure. Fear is data. 33. If you see me acting oddly, speaking too softly, standing too still, treat me as compromised. 34. The island isn't haunted, it has guarded, and we are the guards. I leave the folder in the mailbox every dusk. Sometimes it has gone by dawn. Sometimes when I pass cabin 8 in the early light, I see a figure at the desk, hands flat on the wood, waiting for the knocks. I don't wave. I just keep walking, counting my steps, making sure the path stays true.